their business model, their goals, all of it, and try and make sure that the decisions I make for them are the right ones for them. So it's not a cookie cutter model for every business out there, because everybody's different. Does anybody in here use computers for their business? Oh, quite a few of you. I can imagine. Jim is a client of mine, one of my first clients when I started my own business, actually. So he's stuck there with me for a couple years now. I think he's pretty happy most of the time with me. Of course, computers frustrate people regularly, so usually when I pick up the phone or walk in the office, they're already not happy to see me. For some reason, I enjoy it. I don't know, I guess I like to torture myself. But I've been doing this for over 20 years. I went straight into the Marine Corps out of high school, and this fixed air traffic control equipment when I was in the Marine Corps, and it segued into computers somehow along the way. So most of everything I've learned, except for like a 2-week course on the interior components of a desktop computer, I've kind of learned on the job or taught myself. It's just kind of intuitive to me. It kind of makes sense. So I like to pass that knowledge on to people who do other things, like who, attorneys and retail shop owners and people who redo furniture and all that good stuff. So, I like to share the information that I have with you. That brings me the joy in this job. So tonight, I just want to talk to you, we're going to go over the basics of everything that you need in your business related to IT. Phones, computers, servers, software, internet, all of the above. Hardware, where do you get it? Do you buy it online? Do you catch a sale at Best Buy? All of the retail stores around here, like Best Buy and Walmart that have electronics, 9 times out of 10, if you wait and go back home to your computer and go to Amazon or Tiger Direct or Newegg, you're gonna find those same exact model numbers for anywhere from 10 to 15% cheaper. The key to buying hardware is think about it in advance, because if you're buying under the gun, under fire, and you gotta have it right now, you're always gonna end up spending more money than if you're planning a little bit, in the future and thinking about long-term needs and what your, the way your company is growing and changing. Are you gonna be bringing people on? Possibly I'll need 3 more computers by, the end of the year. Well, the best time of the year to buy computers is when everybody goes back to school and around Christmas. So try and keep that in mind throughout your business, and learn your buying habits as far as supplies and things like that for your computer equipment as well. Software is a big one because it can get expensive. QuickBooks alone makes you just regret starting your own business sometimes. It's a pretty pricey product, but it does everything that you need if you can ever figure out how to use it. Myself, I use a little cheap program online from GoDaddy called GoDaddy Bookkeeping. It's $15 a month, and it does everything I need. It does invoices. It does automated invoices like monthly, if I want to send them out again monthly. It gives me my tax information at the end of the year. So look around. Don't just pick the most common one that everybody else uses, because it may be overkill for what you need. Think about the basics of what you need the software to provide for you and go from there. Look at the features, because there's always different levels of these software programs too. There's basic, pro, and premier. Make sure that the one that you're purchasing fits your needs, but you gotta think about your future growth too, because you don't wanna spend $300 on the standard version, and then in a year and a half, now you gotta spend another $1,000 to get the bigger one when you could've just spent $1,000 in the first place. So kind of think about those things too. Let's see. Oh, back to hardware. Sorry, my most important point. I can't believe I forgot that. Extended warranties on hardware. Always, 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 if they're available, buy them, because you can't get me or someone like me to walk in and do a hardware repair on your computer for less than $100, more than likely, unless you know someone who knows someone who knows someone. But usually these hardware warranties now, you can extend them up to 3 or 4 years, which is about the life cycle of a computer, about 3 to 4 years, for $100, $150 tops. so get them if they're available. And don't buy them from the retailer that you're purchasing the device from. Buy them directly from the manufacturer of the device. So let's say you do end up finding a good deal at Best Buy. When you get back home and go online to register it, which you should always do as well for warranty purposes down the road, buy the extended warranty directly from the manufacturer of the equipment. And that goes for desktops, laptops, tablets, netgear or network devices such as switches and routers and everything like that. There's the most expensive softwares out there will help you run your business really well, like CRM software, customer management software, CRM. I don't even know what that stands for anymore. But like they'll manage your whole business, the entire sales process, all the way to invoicing and billing. And then there's ERP, which also is a step up from that, which does inventory management, customer reminders, and billing. So when you're thinking about your accounting software, if you've got something that you need to keep inventory for, think about those other types of software too, because they may be an option for you as well. Always compare at least 2 products when you're thinking about making a major purchase like that, because once you make that decision, you're gonna be stuck with it probably for a couple years without having to make another investment if you make the wrong choice. So make sure there's a demo. Usually there's a free 30 to 90 day trial time that the vendors will let you install the software and use it fully functional, so you can check it out. But there's always another piece of software out there too that does pretty similar, functions and features. So don't just go, like I said, for the one that everybody else uses because it's the most popular or most well known. One of the items that the gentleman before me was touching on is probably the biggest topic of my day, almost every day now, security. There's so many different ways that your computer can get breached or hacked or denial of service attack. Did you guys know the internet went down a couple of days ago, was unavailable? A huge company called Dying DNS, which, like if you buy a home camera system or something like that, and you want to be able to access it remotely from your mobile phone so you can see what the kids are doing when you run to the grocery store, well, that service uses what's called Dying DNS, so that it looks like your device has the same IP address. So your phone knows where to go every time to see what's going on inside the home. Because a lot of home users, if you guys use Charter, AT&T for your services, they change your information randomly. So Dying makes it look the same all the time. So all of these botnets out there all gathered together a couple days ago and started sending out all these extra signals, and it overwhelmed all the servers and shut everything down. That's just one example of one small thing. They weren't even really trying to accomplish anything. They weren't gearing up for the election day or anything like that. But those things, there's many things that are lying dormant, and they could be lying dormant on your PCs too. So that's why it's important to be diligent and aware of the different types of security threats that are out there. They're constantly changing and they're constantly expanding, and they can really hurt a small business. I mean, you've got 2 computers in your whole company. The main one goes down, that's got all the files on it. Your whole company's down. So you can get somebody out there to figure out what infection it is, how to shut it down, and how to recover your files if they've become encrypted or locked or deleted or anything like that. And then the step beyond that is if you do have company or client information, like if you take credit cards or your personal trainer, you've got some sort of information about them. What's the damage? What information did they take? Did they take information? Did they alter information? Why would they want to do that? But they do. There's all kinds of reasons that they do these little things out there. It's a whole another world. It's like an underworld. There's just as many people trying to figure out ways to steal information from us as there are trying to keep them from stealing it. So it's a constant war. And so somebody will steal the data and they'll sell it to somebody who can use the data, and there's just all different levels out there. So there's a lot of really good resources online that's free. So you just do a little bit of reading on this topic, and you'll be aware of the signs to watch for. If your computer ever starts popping up and telling you there are 3,275 things wrong with your registry, click here to clean it, please don't click there. Please don't click there. Be aware of what your antivirus software looks like. Be aware of what your antivirus software tells you or how it pops up, when it's scanning, what it's doing, when it's updating. Make sure that you're being proactive about those few little things, and that can really help keep you from having big time troubles down the road. I had a CPA's office who wasn't a client of mine at the time, but through another client, they reached out. I need IT help right now. Well, they had gotten that CryptoLocker virus, the one that comes in and locks all your files so you can't get to them. So, with CPAs, they use flash drives. They take the client's company data file back to their office, they put it in their computer, and then they work on it and save it and take it back to the client. Well, one of these little flash drives had a little malicious piece of software on it that when she plugged it into her computer at her office, it took off and it went to the network drives and it went onto the server, and then from there it went on to every single computer in the entire office and locked them out of all of their clients' files so they couldn't access them. They were completely down and they were in big trouble. It wasn't tax time, fortunately, it could have been worse, but there was nothing that they could do. Those ransomware softwares, they want you to pay money. Please don't ever pay money. If anybody ever calls you and says, I'm with Microsoft or I'm with such and such, your antivirus company, and we got a report that your computer is not acting right, please don't ever let them remote into your computer unless you have a direct relationship with someone who's an IT consultant that you've worked with that's familiar with your systems, maybe has remote access, or maybe monitors the antivirus for you. Don't give anybody remote access to your devices.
Isn't it something like them kind of like false advertising and stuff like that? Isn't something like that completely illegal and you could just right away act upon that?
Yes, but there are so many cases of this going on. If you go to the Federal Trade Commission's website, you can read all about that and how to report it if something suspicious, if you come across something suspicious like that. There's a whole list of companies that you report it to, like the Federal Trade Commission. I believe that's where the main list is at. But it's rampant. I've had 3 customers within the last couple months that actually fell for it and let somebody remotely control their computer. And as they're just innocently clicking around, what you can see in the background, they've put a script on your computer that's running wild and taking control, so your computer is never going to be doing what you tell it to do again. And you don't see any of this going on, but it's sitting there, just like this botnet thing. It's sitting there lying dormant, waiting for some remote connection to say, okay, wake up and do this. So I can't imagine how many computers are sitting out there like that. Yeah.
My dad's actually an IT tech, and his mom
I
called
was
one
just
day,
gonna raise my hand for that.
and she was freaking out. She goes, "So I got a call, and it was some fraud thing." And all my dad says is, "Turn off your computer, unplug it, and bring it to me right now." And she had someone controlling her whole computer, and they were like telling her all this stuff she had to buy, and she goes, "Well, I'm not doing that." And so she like hung up, changed everything, and brought the computer. My dad had to like clean the whole thing and rebuild some of it because it was so bad.
Yeah, and it takes just a minute or two for all that to happen. It really
Ever
does.
since then too, the computer does not run the same now.
Probably, right. Yeah, this security stuff is no joke, and it's changing and it's growing every day. It's a very serious concern, and especially for small to medium business owners, because there's so many of you, just little bits of data here and there that they're constantly grabbing from all of you, because you're the least likely to be protected. Big companies, they got money. They can buy the antivirus and buy the IT tech who knows everything and how to lock it all down. But, so the small business people are the ones that they're really going after now. And so you gotta be diligent, because it can crush you. 85% of businesses who suffer a breach like this don't recover. Small businesses, they just don't recover because it just kills them financially. I'm sure if you guys can imagine just being out of business for a couple of days or a week, how big of an impact that would have on your finances. Mine anyway. I can't go for very long without sending out invoices, and I'm kicking myself in the butt, cause now I gotta wait 3 weeks for the money to start flowing. So, it can hurt you. And in that regard, in advance, find somebody that you can trust, find somebody that knows your systems, somebody that, you've talked to before, somebody that's walked through your office and knows that you have a Netgear router with a little Netgear switch, and that you use Charter, and that your phones are VoIP, and that you've got 3 desktops and a server and 5 remote workers. Have somebody that's on your team that you can trust, that can back you up if something like that were to happen. So you just make one call and they know exactly what to do, and you're back in business. It's worth paying a little bit of money up front to be proactive about these things, to avoid something like that happening. And really, for small businesses, it doesn't take that much. If you've just got a couple of systems in your office, you just need to make sure you've got the antivirus and the backups, and somebody that checks on them, or somebody that gets notified if they're not running right. Really, it's managed services, and that's what I offer my clients. It's a small monthly fee, sometimes so small it's an annual fee, just to have the antivirus and the online backups running. And then I get notified if anything weird is going on, like if their updates aren't running on their antivirus, or if a backup has failed for a day or 2 in a row. So, unless you're a real techie type person and you like checking on those things in addition to all the paperwork and all the calls and all the other stuff that you got going on. I know we like to do it all as small business owners, but if you can put a little bit off on somebody else that you've met, that you can trust, go ahead and do that, and then you just don't have to worry about it. That's my serious advice on security. If you've got employees, if you start to grow, and you've got people working for you, you've got company email, like you've got your own domain, you've got a couple of, people that you let use their cell phones. Make sure that you're please not using just regular old pop email, which is like a Gmail account or a Hotmail or a Yahoo. Those are very insecure, very easy to hack. I'm sure you've heard, Yahoo was breached, major breach. It's called Microsoft Exchange. It's $4 per user per month. It's so secure. Another $1 on there will get you the level of protection if you're using client data, or if you're transferring client data. So $5 per user per month to make sure that you're protected. Email's like what? Your main communication, right? Probably more so than the phones nowadays. We're emailing people back and forth all the time. So, just that little bit of money a month to save you again some big headaches.
I have a question on that.
Yeah.
You think, Mac products, I was always told that, you don't need to get backup because nobody can really hack into like an Apple product.
That's not true as much anymore. The good thing about Apple is especially with the iPhones, they've automatically got encryption on them, which encryption will help somebody else on another computer from stealing your data, right? You have to give them your data. So they're better as far as that goes. But I've got a client that's an insurance broker, I guess you could say, who they just had to have their stuff all redone because he was using his phone to look at some sites, and he had his work stuff on there. I had him set up so he could access his work stuff on there, and when he saved a file back onto his server, boom. That's the other thing. The users are the primary way that companies get infected too. So you got to train your employees, or you got to make yourself aware. You got to know what the most current threats are and how to avoid them. It's real simple things that you can do. There's all kinds of online resources, just short little videos that'll tell you what's a botnet, what's a virus, what's the difference between malware and spyware, what do they do, how do they affect me, where do they come from, what do I look for. So just a lot of good stuff out there.
So would Microsoft Exchange work on a Mac product?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
It does. It's cross-platform, and the great thing about Microsoft Exchange is that it will sync from device to device to device perfectly. So what's in your inbox on your Mac will be on your inbox on your phone, on your tablet, on your cousin's computer that you use when you go to Thanksgiving dinner, every day, all the time. And you can use the devices offline too. If you are, you know, without an internet connection for a period of time, everything's still synced there. And then when you connect back up to the internet, it'll, you know, reconnect and put everything back up there. In the cloud, which is what we're gonna talk about next. The cloud. Yeah.
Is Microsoft Outlook different than Microsoft Exchange?
Microsoft Outlook is the software that receives Microsoft Exchange. Exchange is like the server, the back end that makes it all go, and Outlook is the GUI, what the user sees
Okay.
in front of them.
Okay, cause I have Outlook, so I wanted to make sure I have.
You, just because you have Outlook doesn't mean though that you have Exchange. Do you have your own domain, like your own app?
I got it from GoDaddy, yeah.
Okay, and then did you buy the email through GoDaddy too? How long ago?
February?
Okay, yeah, then it's more than likely Exchange, because I don't think top is not what they primarily offer. I'm a reseller for GoDaddy, so,
Okay.
yeah, I think they were still offering that, so I would just check. Just look at what the service is called on there,
Okay.
and you should be able to tell. Oh, yeah, the back page of that first handout, the websites, domain registration, your .com. You know, the thing I walk in and to a new client who wants to use my services, the first thing I wanna change, if I walk in and I see, jim-inovarilaw@gmail.com is their primary email address, I'm gonna recommend that you change that. But number one, it's not professional, and number two, it's just not safe anymore. It's just not safe to use these free email services. Now, I know Google has Google Apps, Google Business, Google Docs, all that good stuff. They are coming along, but, for me, they're not to the level of what Microsoft is. I mean, Microsoft is the primary and has been standard for Office, document processing, and Excel spreadsheets for as far as I can remember, 20-something plus years, right? So Google Docs may be up and coming, and WordPerfect is still around.
Hey, I'm a WordPerfect guy.
Lawyers seem to love that one, and I don't know what it is, but 9 times out of 10, you walk into a lawyer's office, they still want to insist on using WordPerfect. But I'm dragging them along, dragging them out of that. Okay, yeah, so websites, which mine is down right now, so I'm not gonna be too upset if you don't have anything new.
So such as emails, I do currently have a Gmail email I've been wanting to change because I want to end it with my domain name. Is there any way you can link your old email up to your current, like your new email? So
Yes.
those emails get filtered, you know, all my business cards have my old email.
Absolutely, and Jim is actually going through that process still. Your old email is still being forwarded to your @Innovari Law, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, so you just set up forwarding in the account, you can set up what's called an alias in your new account, and, yeah, you can leave that in place for as long as you want. If you've
Okay.
been doing it for a long time, you got a lot of people that
Yeah.
are still gonna be emailing you. What you can actually do is set it up so that the messages that come into your old email address to your new inbox, when you reply to them, it'll come from your new email address.
Oh,
And so
they-
eventually,
okay.
they get filtered out.
Yeah, okay, awesome, thanks.
Yeah, so websites are a great way to generate web revenue, to keep your customers up to date on what's going on with your company, what you're up to, and, you know, to, what else? Oh yeah, reach new markets, because people are on the internet every day, all the time, looking for what they want, right? They're not gonna sit there and wait for a commercial for a personal trainer, right? They're gonna go, if they want it, they're gonna go and they're gonna find it. And so if you're out there and you're, you've got a good presence on the web, they're gonna find you. SEO is a big new term. I don't even know what that stands for. How great of an IT consultant am I? SEO is basically words that you use that describe certain aspects of your business that are words people will put into Google searches, basically. So if you're a certain type of attorney, you're gonna wanna make sure that those certain words are in paragraphs on every page of your website. That's SEO in a nutshell, really. Okay, so on to the next one. I'm doing pretty good here. Cloud computing. What is the cloud? Okay, so I'm not gonna read through this whole thing, you all can take this home and review it, but basically, the cloud is a computer or server, or virtual server, or combination of the two, that is in a huge data center that is secured by physical security guards, armed guards sometimes. You have to swipe your badge to get in. Huge data centers, computer after computer after computer. They've got diesel trucks with fuel around the corner in case the power goes out. So these guys are never going down. They're always gonna have internet service. They're always gonna have power, even in the event of a disaster. They've got internet piped in from all the major providers. They've got, not only do they have the generators and the battery backups, but like I said, they've got that diesel truck around the corner, ready to refill the generators. So these guys are gonna be up all the time. That's the cloud. It's a data center. It's a computer that you could have sitting in front of you, sitting somewhere else. That's always gonna be available, because we're so mobile now, and we use our tablets and our phones, and we go from place to place, and we often work from home, even when we have an office. The cloud is a way to have your data available and accessible to you anywhere, anytime. You can sometimes pay a premium for that, depending on how far you go with it. You know, if you're just using a service, which is like a backup service, let's say, you just wanna back up your files on your computer to the cloud, so that in case your office burns down, I hate to say stuff like that, but in case your office burns down, you could go over to this office and download your files, and boom, you're back in business within a few hours. You know, whereas if your laptop gets destroyed in the fire, now you gotta go buy a new laptop, you gotta, you know, call your accounting person to get your files from them, and you gotta pull all your paperwork that's, you know, half burned and smoke filled, and so, online backups. Let's see, there's QuickBooks Online actually now is becoming a very big thing. You don't even store your own QuickBooks file on your computer anymore, so you don't have to worry about that backup. They take care of it. It's in the cloud. That's all it is. It's on a computer, an actual physical computer, that has maybe a virtual computer running inside of it somewhere else in the data center. Those data centers often have redundant data centers, which means that there's a computer that looks exactly like this computer in two parts of the country. So that in case this part of the country gets destroyed or damaged, this part of the country is still going. And you wouldn't even know if this half of the country had been destroyed, it just automatically switches over to this one, so your services are always gonna be available. That's the cloud. Does that make sense? I mean, that's no big deal, right? Everybody understands that? Yeah? Okay. Jim, you understand that? Types of clouds, there's public cloud, which means, you know, there's information sitting out there that's available to anyone. There's a private cloud, which means one individual company, for the most part, owns it, owns the software, owns the hardware, owns that space in the data center. Community cloud, two or more companies that share the same requirements, or hybrid cloud, a combination of the two. So I've got a server in my office, but I have a redundant server in the cloud, in the data center downtown on Tucker, the old St. Louis Post-Dispatch building. It's really amazing. I went down and toured it, and the facility is awesome. I mean, it's just overwhelming. It's pretty, well, if you like computers it is, but it's pretty cool. Choosing a cloud provider. 3 types of providers that you can subscribe to. Software as a service, that's your online backups, your QuickBooks Online. They differ in how much control you have over your information and what you expect your provider to do. Are they gonna automatically fix the problem? Are you gonna have to call them? Are you gonna have to call and walk through troubleshooting steps with them? Hopefully they speak English. Because that could be very frustrating, right? Calling support and hearing that, hello. And you already know right then, oh God, here we go. Yeah. They're getting, Microsoft, I think, really has come a long way. Every time I used to call in the past, I've been a partner with Microsoft for a long time. I call in the past, and I'd sit there and spend hours and hours and hours trying to figure out a Microsoft problem myself, just to avoid calling. And yeah, but see, if you've got an IT person on your side that you can count on, you can call them and let them deal with it, right? Put that on them. Platform as a service. So that is, these types of services like QuickBooks, but they also, will let you kind of customize the service for your needs. Develop the service for your needs, like an inventory system that has, you know, like for a manufacturing plant, and you do certain types of manufacturing, and you would need the database to work a certain way, so you've got an Oracle database person working for you, or a SQL database. The guys who get paid the really big bucks, the people that speak a whole other language that's just computer stuff, yeah. And then infrastructure as a service, that's where they can manage your entire infrastructure remotely. Like, you've got an IT, like, this is kind of what I do for some of my clients too. Like, I had a client that's a manufacturing client. They had their corporate office here in St. Louis, and then they had 2 plants on the East Coast, Pennsylvania and West Virginia. So they go out and they get everything set up, and everything's managed from a remote location. So their users call remote help desk, walk them through everything. You've got a local guy out on the site that you have a relationship with, and in case you need to go put hands on something, like if a hard drive fails or something like that. But if you're getting those extended warranties like I recommended, you're not even gonna need that. You just call the warranty company, they come out and swap whatever part it is, and, you know, it's set it and forget it, as they say. So, you know, there's a whole range of availability for different types of service that you can have in place. You can have somebody manage everything all the time and include labor, warranty, and hardware. I mean, the whole shebang. Or you can just have somebody that you go to and say, hey, I need this, like I need a printer, or I need this, and, you know, as minimal as that. So there's always somebody out there that's willing to flex on what they offer you. So if you're presented with an agreement or contract for a certain amount, and that's all that they're gonna do, move on to the next one. If it's not what you need, or you think you're paying a little too much, you don't need this part of the service, and they're not willing to budge, there's somebody, I guarantee you, out there that will be willing to adjust to exactly what you need. Let's see. Again, security. As the gentleman was saying, you know, taking on, who has the liability for your data if it's being stored in the cloud? If you've got an IT consultant who has recommended that service to you and installed that service for you and configured it and is monitoring that service for you, and somehow your client data gets breached, is that IT consultant responsible, or is the company who sells the actual service responsible? It depends. There's a very fine line, so make sure you're clear on that when you're looking into these services, because it varies from service to service and from vendor to vendor. IT consultants like me, I'm very thorough. I make sure I CYA on everything. So I've got policies for each and everything that I do. And, you know, when you're talking about companies that have PHI, PII, private data, you gotta make sure you're covering your rear. Even if you're just doing business with these people, you've gotta have business associate agreements with these people. And make sure that they are at least somewhat aware of the types of risks that are out there. I mean, you don't wanna be doing business with somebody who has maybe access to some of your client files, who's just, you know, out there at a coffee shop connecting to all the public Wi-Fi, you know, getting your data breached. So make sure that you know who you're doing business with. Enough about the cloud. The last item is it's a toolkit that is available from Open for Business. It's a government program, but I thought it was really very thorough and gives you a really good idea and kind of puts you up and gives you a good starting point of how to document and what to document as far as IT and security and backups, and what you're gonna do if a disaster happens, and what you're gonna do if your main distributor, suddenly goes out of business, or, you know, just kind of puts a lot of thoughts in your head to make you think about some things maybe that you wouldn't, to help identify the types of threats that you may come into contact with based on who your clients are, or based on the type of, services that you provide. And, you know, what's the severity, what's the possibility of really an earthquake happening here? Probably pretty minimal right now, but, you know, San Andreas faults, you never know, it could change at any time. But it's not something we think about every day. But, it is in California, they think about it, so it's a higher risk for them out there. The different types of, and not even just, natural disasters, but, you know, foreign people coming over and, you know, starting wars and things like that. All those things play into the types of risks that are out there. Workplace violence. You hire somebody and you think, you know, this guy's the greatest salesperson you've ever had, and next thing you know, he's holding your client hostage or something like that. I mean, what do you do in a situation like that? You gotta have a plan for those scenarios. Not every single one, of course, but, you know, just like I said, this opens your mind up and gives you some gives you a starting point. And then, you know, there's a couple of forms in here that you can fill out and keep on file, for employees, for equipment, for software. And then, you know, give it to someone in case you're incapacitated for a period of time. Who would you give your business to? Who would run your business if you got sick and were in the hospital for a week or 10 days? Do you have a backup plan if that was to happen? Because I'm thinking that your clients probably hope that you do. Background checks on employees. Not that expensive to do. You can sign up for a service where you get so many per year that you can run, or you can just do them onesie-twosies at a time, which is a little more expensive. But there's a couple different services out there that will let you do a basic background check too. Missouri State Highway Patrol has a program for that. Suppliers and vendors. Again, make sure that you're diligent about how secure their facilities are, and, you know, how do they protect your data that happens to be on their devices. Employee devices, again, phones and things like that. If you allow people to have business information on their personal devices, you need to have the ability to wipe that device in case that person decides they want to quit. Now they've got their company email or your company email on their phone. They could keep sending messages or keep in contact with your clients or whatever. You need to be able to wipe that device remotely, instantly, if they're allowed to do that. And that's available with Microsoft Exchange too. Be done in just a couple minutes. Any questions? I pretty much answered them all, didn't I? Just kidding. Review your plan too. As your business grows and changes, every 6 months to a year, look back at this and go over it, because it's gonna be changing. You know, the life cycle of computers, about 3 to 4 years. And then the last thing is know where to go for help in the event of emergencies and disasters. Again, the Small Business Administration has so many resources available, not just for information technology, but for disaster and recovery planning, for business continuity planning. There's all sorts of starting templates out there that'll get you going, or, you know, give you a place to start if you just have no clue. And again, you know, get an IT person on your side, in your corner, that's familiar with all your devices, that knows your business before you have a problem. Because like I said, if you're seeking somebody out when you're in the middle of an event, something's happened, you're always gonna pay more if you don't have somebody in advance. You know, if you're out there under fire, you gotta have it fixed right now. You're gonna end up paying more for it. So I think that's all I got. No questions? Sammy, did you have a question? Yeah.
So, kind of going back to the email, I had one of my buddies help me out with some of the things with my business lately, and one of the things I've heard him say several times is that nothing is unbreachable, you can hack anything. Overall, like with getting, what was the name of the email that you recommend getting, like going from a
Microsoft
Gmail?
Exchange.
So, what overall would be the benefit? Because if somebody really wants to get your information or so on and so forth, how much more secure are you really, and is it worth, I mean, even if it is only a couple dollars, if somebody's gonna try to hack you, breach you, or anything like that,
I would say the benefits and the increased amount of security just based on the technology alone
okay,
is, I would say, at least 50 to 60% more secure
okay.
than not having been using a POP or an IMAP account. Plus, when it comes down to a data breach, if you ever had any client data that was taken,
Okay,
due diligence is a big deal in that regard. So if you've taken extra steps like getting Exchange, which is more secure email, and you've documented this, and you've done that, and you can wipe mobile devices remotely, you're gonna be less likely to get a huge fine than you would, yeah, absolutely.
and then in the end, is it basically can't anything be hacked, breached, or anything?
Nothing is 100% locked down ever. And why? Because of the human factor. The human factor. People are really the door to a good portion of these types of threats, so. Yeah, people, the human factor. Oh, my zipper's down. Aren't you guys hungry?
I wasn't looking there.
Good, so I had your attention up here in this area. Perfect. So I could've got away without telling you my zipper was down?
Yes, you could.
Did you get that on video?
Yes. All 40 minutes of it.
What is Snapchat? Yeah, so any other areas of discussion?
The thing you said about forwarding, so switch your email like from that Gmail. But is that Microsoft Exchange? Is it a pretty simple
Yeah,
exchange?
yeah,
to
so
switch
let's say you
over?
got.
Because obviously a lot of people will be switching over from a Gmail, a Yahoo,
Mhm.
and so forth.
Yeah, let's say, I'll give you an example. I have a client, he's a one-man show. He's an NFL, rep part of the time, and he's a furniture rep part of the time, right? So NFL gives him email for their stuff, obviously, it's the NFL. But, his little furniture distribution company, he was using his Gmail account forever. So, he's seen people all over the country, so he's got hundreds and hundreds of people who have his Gmail address.
Of course.
And fought me for years and years and years against going to Exchange just because he was afraid people would lose contact with him.
Okay.
Well, long story short, he got him on Exchange now with his own domain, and he's still, to this day, getting messages that are being forwarded from that Gmail account into his new account. So it's a real simple process in Gmail. You just set up the forwarding to that new address, and then once those messages come to your new address, when you respond to those people that are still sending to
It's
your
gonna come
address,
from the new email.
yeah, so eventually, like I said, they'll get filtered out.
And through that, just like any other email you could obviously have. So for me, Alvin Bushman at Muscle Monk Fitness, you could have that through Exchange.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely, unless Muscle Milk Fitness is a.
Muscle Monk.
Muscle what?
Monk.
Monk. Monk.
Muscle
Muscle Fitness. Where's Muscle Monk?
My first name's Alvin. Monk means wise person, but then also chipmunk, monk.
Oh, I get it. See, I'm fast with the computer stuff, but slow with like the human jokes. Get it? I'm with you. Yeah.
I must have missed it. On the Microsoft Exchange, is there a fee per month?
Yeah.
Like I would set it up, go to Microsoft website or something, or I'm not too
You
familiar
can use
with
a
it.
Microsoft partner.
Okay.
I don't charge any more than they do for the subscription. I'm basically just your direct partner for Microsoft. Now, if you have me actually do the setup for you and, like transfer your emails from your old Outlook client to your new one or whatever, I do go for that. But, just if you wanna get the service set up, the domain, the hat, I don't charge for that, and it's the same price as if you were to call someone at Microsoft Academy. But it's $4, the basic package, there's multiple, the basic package is $4 per user per month. For advanced security protection, it's another $1 per user per month. But then also there's a kiosk plan that's only $2 per user per month, but you can only set that up on phones and access webmail. You can't actually use like an Outlook client to access that. So, and then there's subscriptions that include more beyond that, like attorneys need to archive things for a certain amount of time. I think it's another $2 to turn on archiving, and you can keep that stuff indefinitely. And then you can also include Microsoft Office subscriptions. So you get the newest and latest version of Word, Excel, and PowerPoint along with it. And just, it goes on and on and on from there. It includes their CRM product, which is Microsoft Dynamics. Ranges from $2 up to $20 per month, just depending on what you want. And it's flexible, you can change. If you buy 4 email accounts that are just email this month and you lose 2 people, you can change it. It's not an annual commitment or anything like that, it's month to month.
Question, more questions?
How do you know you have been breached? What's the
Good
signal?
question. It's a good question. You know, I just went through this with a client of mine. It's a financial services company, so could have been a big, huge deal. You know, you gotta look in the logs, you gotta look in the network device logs, and see if there's any unencrypted data. Is a painstaking, long process for people like me, who like to stay up late at night and do boring things like that. Yeah, but I mean, it's hard to tell. You know, not every time you get an infection, a virus or malware or spyware, not every time are they taking your information. Even 2 times out of the 3 that people let somebody remotely control their computer that I told you about, they weren't taking data, they were setting up those bots to make those machines ready for something later down the road. So, yeah, you just have to get to the specific name of the threat and go to a website like Symantec is a really good, who I recommend, Symantec. Their endpoint security, their antivirus is only $30 for a whole year. It's business level security. It's good, it's gonna run your scans, it's gonna automatically update. It's gonna block you from clicking on those links that you get those pop-ups from, because they look legit. So, well worth the investment.
Okay. Anybody know who's winning the World Series game?
Indians.
No.
3-0.
What's
World
what
Series.
inning is it?
Well, I need to get out.
Yes, you
Sorry.
do.
I'm just saying they're gonna win.
It is.
Bottom or the end of
Oh, good. Still got some game left.
the, yeah, 3-0.
Okay. Next,